Hello!
Welcome back to another episode of Singapore's Real Estate Explained, where we break down real estate knowledge into bite-sized information. And today we'll be going through a new launch called
Hillhaven. And this is a new launch found in the midst of Midwood area, in fact Hillview area, next to the Hillview MRT. And it's very exciting because this is a project that we launched since 2 years ago. There hasn't been a new launch come out in this area. Alright, so let's take a look at where and who are the developers.
Yep.
Okay, so if you look into the data, this is actually a decent plot of land. Okay, 10,000 square meter of land, up to 111,000 square feet. So plot ratio here is 2.8, 99 years residential. So it's a government land sale that will come out for some time, bidded since in 2022, bought by Far East and Kingsview House. So if you know about Far East, they love to buy into areas where there's upcoming MRT or there's MRT in the area and developing the land. Okay, expected TOP is 2027 with 341 units. So next, let's take a look at the location.
Okay, so for location-wise, Hillhaven is located pretty close to Hillview MRT, about 500 meters, which is about 6 minutes walk. So pretty close to Hillview CC, as well as your shopping mall, Hillview 2.
And yes, if you know, it's actually right at the bottom of the roundabout, and then it's just right next to it. If you walk towards Hillview MRT, it's actually an absolute walk. So there's something to take note about this location itself. Okay, and next up, let's take a look at the schools.
So within 1 kilometer, we have CHIJ, Our Lady Queen of Peace, and then for other schools twice, it will be within the 1 to 2 kilometer range, which includes the list of schools that's shown on the screen.
Yeah, so one thing to note is CHIJ is one of the better schools in the area, so there's something to take note, and that's why people are still interested to buy this area because of that. But other than that, the rest of the schools is still pretty decent, with Bukit Panjang Primary being one of the more key schools to take note. But other than that, one thing to take note is if you know about Hillview area, it's had with lots of condominium, which we'll dissect later on to see whether this is a place that is worth considering. Okay, so in terms of the launch, okay, currently it's sold 50 units, okay, in this area, so about less than 20% of the total number of units in this development. It was launched together Arcade, which also the same number of units. So over launch weekend, if you take note, in this area, it was actually filled with people who want to buy, and the take-up rate isn't up to the usual expectation of 30 to 40%.
Yeah, but another thing to note also is that while take-up rate is an indicator of the demand in the area, what we do notice, there are also developments that actually perform very well later on in the sales when the initial take-up wasn't as strong.
Yes, and we should find out more later which condo it was at in this area, in fact. Okay, so in terms of summary-wise, you can take a look. Currently, it's about less than 20% sold, 63 units up to date. Okay, we are taking it from this week, which is almost the last week of January.
Yes.
And if you take a look at the launch, okay, it's very interesting. If you take a look at the kind of units that is released, there's no one bidder. So it's definitely not looking at investors. There's only 2 bedroom and 2 plus study.
Yes.
And the developer is quite smart because they notice, if you look at the past trends for 1 bedroom here, they don't really do very well. A lot of people who buy here are mainly the small families or family upgraders. And in terms of number of 2 bedroom and 2 plus study, it's made up 53%, while the 3 bedroom to 4 bedroom are 46.63%.
So it also shows that the developers actually plan this half-half, I would say, for investors as well as own stay buyers, because they would know that in this area itself, a lot of people are also buying for own stay, and that's why the 3 and 4 bed actually combine about half the development also.
Yes, indeed. And if you notice, the take-up rate is about similar, with almost, I would say, 40 units of 2 and 2 bedroom plus study being sold, and about close to about 25 of 3 bedrooms and up being sold. And if you notice, the 4 bedroom, despite having 54 available, only 1 is sold.
Yeah.
So there's something that quantum-wise for people to accept this kind of prices. There could be freehold resale nearby, which people may consider rather than buy the 4 bedroom here.
Correct. And people who usually buy into the 4 bed are normally for own stay purposes. So to buy into a new launch at an early stage where they have to wait 3-4 years and maybe you have to rent with maybe a family of 5 or 6 is not the most convenient. That's why usually for bigger size units, like 4 bedder as an example, usually you see them move faster towards or rather closer to the completion dates.
Yes, indeed. All right. So next, let's take a look at the land bids. Okay, so for Hillview, okay, it was a Hillview Rise government land sale concluded in November 2022. But fun fact, the launch will launch about August 2022, just before the area harmonization, the plan came out. So it's still for
affected by it.
Yes, it's still fall under the old scheme, where the break-even currently is 1849 per square feet. You don't have to add any area harmonization premium to it. Basically, if you talk about a 10% above break-even margin, you're looking at close to 2,000 per square feet. That's why developer launched about that. It's honestly, they are trying to play a very thin margin.
Correct.
Yeah. And you look at 15% to 20%, you're looking at 21 to 22, is something that upcoming new launch land bid price are heading towards, and up to 2003. So there's some things to think about these land bids. So next, let's take a look at the launch prices.
Yep. So for current inventory prices, 2 to 2+ study, we're looking at about a 1.4 to 1.6 range, with the sizes to be about 678 and 797. So per square feet, we're looking close to about 2,000 per square feet, which is about 7.5 to 10% above the break even. And then moving on to the 3 and the 3+ study, we're looking at a quantum of close to about 1.9 to about 2 million, with the sizing about 947 and 1012 square feet. And then the per square feet for this one is about 1,900-ish range, and the break even is about 5.8 to 4.1% above break even. And then moving on to the last one, which is 4 beta, we're looking at a quantum of close to 2.5, size about 1,259 square feet, and then the starting per square feet also about 1,900-ish. Percentage from break even is about 5.9%.
Wow, you can see that it's not really high above break even. They are really trying their best to just scrape us. Especially
for the bigger units of the 3 and the 4 beta, you can actually see that the break even percentage is very, very close to I mean, like the selling price is very close to the break even, which is an indicator that we previously mentioned that you want to buy as close. But later on, we'll dive a little bit more. Even though break even price kind of makes sense, is it worth looking in this area?
Yeah, that's something we will dive into. Because break even is just only one factor to take a look at.
Yeah.
All right. And next, let's take a look at the comparative analysis for the resale, which is something that we do consider aside from break even, which is healthy. Break even is not too far away. So likely the drop price is not as high as compared to a case where there is very high margins to play with. Okay, but of course, you still have to analyze the resale to see where it's worth entering. So let's take a look at the chart over here. So over here you can see Hillhaven. Okay, basically it's a 99-year. Okay, uncompleted, about 2,000 per square feet on average. Okay, the only comparative that you really can compare is the 99-year is the Hillier, Midwood, and Kingsview Hillview.
Yeah.
But if you notice in this area, one thing you take note is that there's a lot of freehold
units,
and 99-year, which is also a concern. Because you are buying a 99-year within a free enclave. And a lot of them, they're not asking like 2,000 per square feet. They're only going at 1,004, 1,005. Some small development maybe close to 1,003. And it's something that, because they have huge floor plate, of course, quantum may be about similar.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly more expensive. But in terms of the freehold status, is something that is worth taking note of.
Yeah, so I think diving into the resale gives you a better perspective also on how, these 99-year developments have been doing the past year, from being like odd one out in like the entire enclave of freehold developments.
Yeah, which is something we will dive through how they fare later on. And one last thing to take note is because there's a lot of condo, not just here. If you go all the way down this entire stretch, there's even like Hillview Green, Park Polaris. This whole stretch of Hillview condo, there's actually quite a huge selection to choose from. Yeah. And a lot of them are freehold.
Yes.
So there's something that we do have to take note about exit strategy, whether it's worth entering with the looks of like exiting in the future.
So we did actually looked at supply in other developments also, and we kind of came to the conclusion that, increase in supply or the number of supply, it's not really the key factor if the demand can actually catch up to the supply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So by looking at how resale transactions have been going, you can kind of determine, is there like demand in this area for, I would say, quite a huge supply of units in the Hillview area itself.
Yes. So how we fare? Let's find out. Okay, so first one, we'll be looking at the Hillier, a 99-year launch in about 2011, 2012, okay, at this area. Completion in TOP is about 2015, 2016, 5 to 8 units, very similar in terms of attributes to your Hillhaven. And if you notice over here, the price, actually, if you bought back then in 2012, 2013, a lot of them actually did not really make much. okay, the price still hold about the same. Okay, rationale as compared to, you can see in the same year, last time people was like close to maybe 1,003 in Singapore. Okay, compared to Singapore wise, now it's about close to 1,009. It actually went up much more as compared to Hillview area. So the reason why there was this particular trend, if you notice, back then in 2012, 2013, it was one of the hype.
Yep.
When new launches, people are like making a lot. So people are like, wow, they say, I think new launch is really the next thing to go for. But one thing though is when it launched, it was at 1,003, 1,004. And if you know back then for new launches in the era, maybe just 1 year or 1.5 year ago before this launch was done, it would only get 1,001 to 1,002 per square feet.
Yeah. So to enter at 1,003, 1,004 and being an OCR project, it's something on the high side at that time. And that's why some of these owners, you do see that their units also didn't really make a lot, or some of them even made a loss.
Yes, correct. And one thing that why people are a little bit apprehensive to enter this area or even buy this area is because this is a 99-year. They're nested within a freehold enclave. So this is something that people to want to enter, they need to make sure that the price is very, very, very cheap. We will see some example later on, how we determine that in order to really want to enter 99-year. But other than that, if the price is launched much higher than like a freehold, which back then, you know, is going at almost close to only 1,000 or even lower, 1,000 per square, 900 per square feet, then we need to reconsider our options.
Yeah, so if you look at how the Hillier has been performing for the past 3 years, went up by about 13%, but we have to remember to look at things in comparative to how the entire Singapore condo transactions have went, which have went up by about, I would say, about 18.7%. So in comparative, even though Hillier did go up, it was more so because the entire market force was actually pulling it up.
Yes,
but
indeed.
it did underperform as compared to when you compare it to all the condo transactions in Singapore.
Yeah, in the same period of time. Next, let's take a look at how the development fared as a whole in over the period of like 10 to 12 years or the 5 years period. So in the profitable transactions, you can see 502 square feet, a small size unit made about 200k, and that's only after holding for 12 years, which honestly isn't that great. It's only like 10k, 15k. You can make
before
more.
minusing off all your stamp duties, your agent fees, etc.
Okay, but this is not the most unlucky one. If you look at the rest, there's some 90 to 45k, and some hold for 10 years, 11 years, some hold maybe 3 years, maybe not so bad. But you can see most of them did not make as much. Okay, rationale is, which is something that we can learn from the Hillier. A lot of this are small, one beta, one plus study kind of layout. So the problem with this, honestly, which is why Midwood, if you know about Midwood, and also know about this project, the Hillhaven, they don't launch one beta because there's no demand in this first place. So it's not a very good thing. The only one they make, even the two betas, is 0.7 square feet. They make a lot too. 90k, 14k. After minusing everything, I think this guy holding 10 years, 11 years, still make a loss at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they bought 1,006 to 1,005 per square feet. And that's 2012. Crazy, because back then, maybe in the area, freeholding 1,001 or like less than 1,000 per square feet. So there's something we do have to take note about. Entry price is much, much more important than buy a new or the old resale. Okay, but unprofitable transaction is crazy. You can see one person even lost 200k after holding for 9 years. Quite sad, like 807 square feet.
Yes.
Bought at 1,700 per square feet. I don't know why they bought that. And now only 1,005. So it's very important to buy into the right property by looking at the right entry price. 1,007 is actually today's OCR prices, in fact, for some. Okay, and next up, let's take a look at the current transaction. Okay, why we're looking at this rationale is because we want to compare it to that of Hillhaven so that we can be able to see whether it's the right price to enter for Hillhaven in the first place. So you can see, in terms of last transacted, 592, okay, square feet is about 910k, 807 square feet is about 1.335. Okay, but the good news is you can see over here, there's 35 transactions in 2023. So it's still a healthy transaction in this area as compared to you see another project later on to see whether there is demand in this project.
So whenever we look at transactions wise, we always look at the resale, how many transactions in the year has been happening. And I think in this case, 35, it is okay. It's quite a healthy transaction. But it also shows that, there is demand in this area, or rather the development itself. And that's why within that 1 year, you're able to see these transactions happening.
Yes, indeed. And next, let's take a look at the layout of the Hillier compared to Hillhaven. Okay, so if you look at the Hillier, you can see 807 square feet. Decent size, okay? Not too bad, okay? In fact, it's like almost like a dumbbell layout with even a study at the back with a 1 bathroom and 2 bathroom over here. Open concept kitchen, 807 square feet. Recently in December 2023, transacted at 1.335 million. Okay, and one interesting thing, even for the bedroom, master bedroom, it has a double-decker bed. Okay, a double a platform.
Yeah.
Okay, a double decker bed, a loft. Okay, I'll say a loft, not double decker bed. But you can stack your bed at the top, and at the bottom you do a study. So very, very functional layout. Okay, but 1,600 per square feet, as compared to a Hillhaven, where we have 2-bedroom, dumbbell layout, 2-bed, 2-bath, enclosed kitchen, starting at 1.379, which is, I guess, is a good comparative. Starting 10 years old, it's about the same price as Hillhaven, which is why you can see Hillhaven for 2-bed, it move more as compared to the rest of the bedrooms.
Yeah, so I think that's the, I would say, plus point for like new launches as compared to maybe the older resales, because for these new launches, usually the size it's slightly more compact, and in that sense, it gives you an edge in terms of the quantum play.
Yes, indeed. And sometimes it could be more efficient. That's why people, utility-wise, they may still be willing to choose Hillhaven over the Hillier. But one thing to note is, will it be able to exit at a higher entry price next time? That's something we do have to trace in this particular area. Okay. And next, let's take a look at another project.
Kingsview
Hillview Peak.
Yeah.
Okay, so for this, it's 512 units, 99 from 2012. Okay, it's within, in fact, just opposite Hillhaven. And if you know about this project by itself, okay, fun fact, the developer actually dropped price.
Yes, in 2016, 2017, when the units really weren't moving, that's when developers drop price. And when developers drop price, it really affects the whole development in general, especially those that entered at the start. So usually when the price goes back up, it will kind of stagnate at the initial pricing that people actually entered at.
Yeah, so for those people who bought at the start, it's unlucky. So they really end up not making much. And subsequently, if you notice, 2020 to 2022, there's not many transactions. We will share with you why later on.
Yep.
But just looking at the floor plan, you will understand it's very, very important to make it right layout.
And I think also note that you can see that the volume actually went up a lot in 2016, 2017. Because that's when a lot of people entered due to the price drop. But when you take a look at the transactions, you realize that doesn't mean that these people that enter at the discount actually made, because some of them actually also lost money. So it doesn't mean that when developers give discount, it means that that's the correct entry price to enter also.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so they are much higher.
Yeah, the starting price could already have been very high at the start.
And even with discount, it could still be high. So that's something that we do have to trace and compare to the resale analysis, and also looking at what exactly is the right price to enter. Okay, using an investment matrix. And if you take a look at Kingsview Hillview Peak, honestly, not many make much. A lot of them are below 100K. Some will make $6,000, $7,000 after holding for close to 8 years. Yeah. Quite sad. Honestly, it's very, very sad. And in some cases, 600K was actually a 1,539 square feet, okay, which for this person who bought in 2016, after the price is dropped, okay, it seems like a good deal. But if you look at layout later on, it's not easy to exit. In fact, fun fact, we sold this unit, 1120. So you need a team that help you to sell also. That's another topic of the day. But the key thing over here is this is the only one that hit past 200K. The rest, you can see 775 square feet, a 2-bed, 2-bath, okay, 1,003. So at 1,484 at 142K. And that's after holding for 10 years. Yeah. Honestly, not good. So if you look at the unprofitable transaction, a lot of them even lost money, not making anything. And they actually bought it in 2016-2015 period, exited in 2021-2023 period, which is not great also. So it doesn't mean, as what Grace mentioned, you buy at a discount, doesn't mean you can sell at a gain unless the entry price you enter is really correct.
So for these owners that actually don't make money, it's not just about the money that they lose up, but also the opportunity cost. Because during that same time, let's say 6 years, there's actually 2 cycles in the market where if you enter into the right property, you could have moved on to like the next bigger one.
And in fact, for 3 cycles, for 10 years, that's crazy. So when you look at in the development, we need to take note about what exactly is the right price to enter and whether there's demand. So you can see from this 2 example, for Hillview area, honestly, for 99-year winning area, the exit-wise, you may face difficulty. In fact, if you talk about resale market, because we did market this Kingsview Hillview Peak before, Hillview area, the number of buyers that are looking into this area are not very, very high. So unless you're thinking about a long-term stay in this area for buying into this development, exit strategy-wise, you may have to take note that the demand for this area, especially 99-year, is not the highest based on past track record. Okay, so next up, let's take a look at the transaction, okay, so they can compare to Hillhaven to see whether our entry price seems to be correct.
Which is something very alarming when we actually look through the number of transactions for Kingsview Hillview Peak. Because it's 5 transactions for 2023 and 0 transactions for 2022.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see the Kingsview Hillview Peak honestly is something that demand is not very high. In fact, when we were selling that Kingsview Hillview Peak, it wasn't easy. We did a home tour, we did everything, but just that we noticed the inquiries, we have to really boost the marketing effort in order to get more people in, and the number of inquiries coming, every buyer is very precious. So you look into this area by itself. Okay, one reason why Kingsview Hillview Peak, okay, perhaps the demand is very low. Okay, 2 main reasons. One is in terms of layout. You can see later on, a lot of like high quantum, like awkward shape for some penthouses, that's one. And second thing is also about development wise. There's a lot of complaint in terms of maintenance if you know about this particular development. So people who are buying this, they have heard of all this problem that happened before. So they are a little more apprehensive to enter this development. So you're buying the resale, this is something you also have to take note. Not a very extreme major factor, but one reason why the demand for this area is not very high. Next, let's take a look at the layout of Kingsview Hillview Peak and compare to Hillhaven to see whether it's something that to consider for Hillhaven. So for two-waiter for Kingsview Hillview Peak, one thing to take note is there's actually a void area over here, which is considered into part of the square feet. Interesting. That was
but developers can no longer do that.
Yes, indeed. And 775 square feet, 1.15 million. Okay, it's like decent. The rest, beside the void area, the rest is quite decent in terms of layout. And compared to Hillhaven, 2-bed, 2-bath is 1.379. So for something that's 6 years apart, this does put Hillhaven at a slight disadvantage for something that is only 6 to 7 years apart. That one thing to take note, if you buy in this area to want to exit, are you able to hedge against the resale? For this case, not as much, okay? And if you look at another case of Kingsview Hillview Peak, and next, let's take a look at another layout that in Kingsview Hillview Peak, which is interesting. It's a 2-bedder penthouse where you basically have a very huge private roof terrace in the layout itself. And this is also one reason why Kingsview Hillview Peak took a little longer to move, because these are the bad layouts that happen, and those are the ones that actually had major discount back then in 2015.
Because in the resale market wise, then you have to find another buyer who values the private roof terrace as much as you. So I would say it's not in general that people like such big open spaces in Singapore.
So the demand for this is not very high. In fact, fun fact, this unit, 1.62 million that was sold done by our team. We had to think of ways to repackage the roof terrace, to think of ideas to resell the unit such that it can attract the right group of buyers to actually appreciate it, but not easy at all. It's something that you have to take note. But when you're comparing this to the 3-bedder, just to apple to apple, because layout-wise, square feet-wise, even compared to Hillhaven, it's going at 1.852 million, okay, which is, I would say, a decent comparative for a size that's being used. But of course, once again, this is something that we do have to recalibrate, to compare later to 3-bedders, which will show in the next slide, to compare to see whether it's worth considering. But one thing to take note why we're showing this size, of course, to share with you the importance of layout when it comes to buying to a resale even a new launch development.
Because I think for both floor plans wise, the amount of in terms of the size of the bedrooms and the living dining, it's pretty comparable, besides the huge roof terrace that we're looking at for the 2-bed.
Yes, indeed. Next, let's take a look at the 3-bedder layout in Kingsview Hillview Peak. So fun fact, there hasn't been any transaction for the past 2.5 years. The last one that came out was 2021, 1.375 million, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1044 square feet over here. Okay, and this is in 2021 as mentioned. So layout-wise, quite decent. Okay, so the only one that's really compared listing the market today, in today's market, is a 109 square feet and asking at 1.7 or 1.68 million. Okay, so this is something to take note, transaction not very high. And it's compared to Hillhaven. Okay, so what we see is a 3-bed, 2-bath, 947 square feet. Okay, there's no yard, asking at 1.852 million. So you compare side by side. One thing that, as I mentioned, a concern. Okay, this is just a compact. You're selling like 200K, 150K higher than mid-floor to high-floor kind of Kingsview pick. So the exit is something that we had to consider. And you can see even a 3+ study, which came out 3+ study, they're going close to 1.95 to 2 million. Once again, when it comes to exiting, you have to take note of all these competitors to see whether are we able to exit at the right price.
Yeah.
But from what I'm seeing right now, it's not a very clear exit strategy. We usually buy the new launch, some cases where we notice that a resale unit is about the same price or more expensive than a new launch. It's some as identity, but in this case, honestly, to be saying of Hillhaven is something that it's not very clear in terms of this particular comparative.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, let's compare to the last part, which we are always looking at to see whether this particular new launch is able to exit at the right price.
Which is also the saving grace for all the developments that we are comparing with, where it's still a little bit early in the phase, but where some of the resale transactions have decent profits as compared to Kingsview, Hillview Pick or the Hillier.
Yeah. So for this case, we will be comparing this new launch that launched back then in this place called Midwood. Okay. So 564 units, 2023 completion, TO Ping soon, collecting keys very, very soon. And it was sold back then in 2019 period. So fun fact, do you know Midwood, when they first launched, only 4% was sold. It was so bad. Everyone thought that it was really a case where no one to buy the area. Launched at 1,005 back then, it was considered high. Okay, and it wasn't moving as much. But the key thing is, subsequently, you notice, very interestingly, you can see almost for 2 years to 3 years straight, it was really stuck at 1,005, 1,006. Only recently it started moving at almost 17.9%.
Yeah.
So it sort of like tallies with the whole market trend of the whole Singapore market. But one thing you can see over here, why they still make money, which is something that we do actually always look at for new launches, is there's an upcoming land bid, which is in this case Hillhaven, that pulls out the entire price. So one thing to note is, you take a look at the Midwood transaction, launch price is about 1,006, 1,005, 1,007 for some, 2019. And recent transaction have managed to achieve close to 2,000 to 2,049 per square feet. Okay, so in terms of the transaction wise, yes, some have made, but most of them, I would say, we have to take a look at whether can we really fetch a profitable transaction.
Okay, moving to the profitable transactions, because not many recent transactions yet. So I would say that the total of 3 right now, 2 of them have done pretty healthily. For the one beta at about close to 200K profits, and the 2 betas about 255,000.
And the reason why there's so little profitable transactions is because a lot of them have yet to hit their sales stamp duty, the 3 years. A lot of them bought in 2021, 2020 end. So there's something that we are still waiting for more of this kind of transaction happening. But then the puzzling question is, why did they make this profit?
Correct.
Okay, which is something that when we look into the numbers, honestly, it's very puzzling because, as you mentioned, you see Hillier, the Hillier pick is not the best. Okay, one thing that really sets Midwood apart. Okay, there are actually 2 main things. One is in terms of the development itself. It's something that is very nicely designed. The developer really put a lot of thoughts, and it turns out much, much better when it's compared to that of Hillview pick and also your the Hillier. Okay, which the development wise wasn't as well designed. But the more important thing that we do notice is about the entry price at 1,006 per square feet back then. Okay, back then, across the entire Singapore in 2019, 2020, it was the norm for the purchase price. But if we notice that, hey, there's actually another land bid that was concluded 2022 or coming that's going to launch 2022, so in 2023, which launched at Hillhaven at 2,000 per square feet, this is a new benchmark for people to willing to accept the 2,000 price for something that is TOP.
Yes.
So that's when the price has shifted in that way.
And we saw a lot of these units actually move not at the start for Midwood, but rather at the 2021 period. And that was also when some of the GLS came up, like the Lentor side area, where people would already have known that OCR prices are going to hit 2,000. And at this time, Midwood, you're still entering at 1,006. So there was kind of that buffer for Midwood as a new launch, hedging against the other OCR land bids in the area at that time in 2021.
Yes, so there's something that when it comes to Midwood, that's why in 2021 it started moving more, and today is fully sold. So there's some things that we do trace when it comes to looking at, hey, is there upcoming land bid? Okay, and next up, when we compare to the 2 betas, you can see Hillhaven actually price it sensitively to compare to Midwood, the two betas are about the same price. For a TOP project, 1.38 dumbbell layout, very similar as compared to Hillhaven for the two beta, which is also about 1.38 million. Okay, and in terms of the three beta, 893 square feet. Okay, a lot of them are sold in 2022 period. April 2022, Jan 2022. So I can't compare directly because they're yet to TOP yet and there's no such transaction yet.
Yep.
But one thing to note is they will launch, I would say maybe they will sell in the open market maybe about 2,000 per square feet too. Okay, so it will be about the same. But one thing to note for Hillhaven is about 1.852. No clear comparative yet for the three beta to hedge against. So one thing to conclude about this, about like Hillhaven, honestly, the exit is not extremely clear. As compared to some other new launches where you notice in the market, it has an exit strategy that's clearer, more price that can hedge against. But Hillhaven, somewhat still very a bit iffy. But one thing to take note is even upcoming land bids, okay, which you do trace in the entire area, there's no clear ones. The only one you can really find is at this place at Dairy Farm area. There's a new land bid that's concluded, but if there are a break even and launch right, it will also be about 2,000. So until we really see for new launches, we're always tracking to enter. If there's new land bids that is very clear that will be able to bring out the prices in the area, then we may consider. But honestly, for now, there's something that is still a question mark.
Because without this new land bids, basically your property price just flows together with, however the overall Singapore property market is going. Unless within that area, you are seeing something new or a certain transformation within maybe a shorter time period, that is what actually allows your unit to outperform the overall Singapore market.
Yes, indeed. And that's something that we do trace very closely. Yeah, so with this, we come to the end of this video. And as usual, we always like to do this thing called the BOA approach. Okay, either buy, wait, or avoid to see that whether we will consider into this development. Okay, so without much further ado, let's do this. Okay, so we will say either buy, wait, or avoid. Okay, 3, 2, 1, avoid. Wow. Okay, so Grace, can you share a bit more? What makes you want to avoid this development?
I think looking at the past history of how surrounding developments have been going, besides Midwood, I think other developments being a 99-year in a freehold area doesn't really have an advantage and could have a disadvantage. Furthermore, to say that the demand hasn't been the strongest and the performance take up for these resale also proves that the demand for the area is not very strong. So if I were to have a choice of pure investment, I think there are other areas with more certainty in terms of the return as well as the demand as compared to entering at Hillhaven.
Yes, indeed. I do agree with for me, I look at entry price. So the entry price, there are very clear exit strategies and those upcoming land bids in terms of the prices that for the resale unit that is able to show a very clear comparative, I may want to enter. But if in a place where there's more uncertainty in terms when compared to the resale units, when compared to the upcoming land bids, there's no clear exit strategy. That's something that I'll be wary, and I mentioned it purely about investment. Then there are better comparative out there. But if you're looking for own stay, a nice place next to MRT, this I guess a decent development where you can stay for long term. But when it comes to a 3 years flip, a short term exit strategy, this is something you have to reconsider so that we can have a wider perspective in terms of investment itself.
With that, we've come to the end of today's new launch review for Hillhaven. If you want to find out more about any updates that we have, you can actually follow our Telegram channel by scanning the QR code over here.
And also, if you'd like to hop onto a consultation with any of our investment brokers regarding what is the next good buy, you can actually scan this QR code where you can be connected to our client care where we attach to you a broker that suits your needs. So thank you for watching today and this video. We hope to see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.